Hi, welcome to, I guess it's Bob Talk with Joseph.
Yeah.
You know, when I finally get younger, I want to have body like Joseph someday. Well, Joseph, nice having you again. I think this is our second recording.
Yeah.
We're trying to have our private session on mentoring on how to become a missionary and available to other young guys. So they don't have to go through difficult time making same mistakes. So I'm so actually thankful.
Yeah.
So these are some of the questions that you raised, and I'm just gonna put it up for a few minutes and then go from there. You asked the following question. I said, hey, let's not just randomly talk about random stuff, but let's have pointed, focused questions. And you asked, how important is having the home church? Oh, well, so I just put it down to bullet points. Importance of having home church support. That was your first question. Importance of tracking time to learn the culture before jumping into ministry. These are great questions. The role of missionary to personally evangelize or teach nationals to do the work or both. Number 4, what is the best use of money on the mission field of kingdom businessmen or financiers? Wow. If I could properly answer this and write a book, I should win a Nobel Prize, brother.
These are like the key
So
questions, huh?
before I get to any of that, I thought, these are great questions, but I think for your sake, where you are right now, it's too early. There's always order in which, because when you ask not the wrong question, but right question, but too early on, then it's gonna kind of screw up your progress of growth. So I think I only gonna raise 3 questions. Why do you do Bible? That's my first question. Why do you do prayer? Why do you do journal? Those are 3 questions. Why question, fundamental question. And once you answer that, then you have to ask, how do you do Bible? Right? How do you read your Bible? How do you pray? Right? How do you write your journal? So those are 3 things I think hopefully we'll get to a bit. And then maybe next time or even today, maybe we could go through some of your questions about, having a support church and all that kind of stuff. Importance of home church. Absolutely important, man. But before home church, right, because I've seen so many missionaries quit. Something like they said about 20% of Korean missionaries who was missionary before COVID, now they're not gonna come back as a missionary. They're done. At 20% of 850 people, so that's a lot. And those people do not quit because money issue or any of that, culture shock, or it's basically because they did not upkeep with their spiritual health, right? Matter of fact, financial difficulties makes us stronger.
Amen.
Amen. So, so I think that really, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, I want to see in your, plan right now, because you'll be going to Cambodia in February. So it's only, oh my goodness, only 3 months long. So how is your spiritual life in terms of your Bible reading, Bible study, Bible intake? Go ahead and share that with me.
It's all right. I definitely wish I could do more.
Oh, I cannot hear you.
It's all right. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay.
It's all right. I wish I could do more. It's been good. It's been good, but I wish I can definitely do more.
Okay.
I haven't been able to get as deep as I used to go.
So okay, so I think when we talk about Bible, I think volume, breadth, and depth both matters. How much you read and how deep you read both really matters, and how much of time that you are actually devoting yourself to. You know a guy named Charlie, right? You work with Charlie and you know Charlie. I mean, he's, in my book, he's a billionaire. And he actually gives 2 hours a day meditating on word of the Lord. I mean, how cool is that, right? So as a missionary, because higher level, higher devil, there will be not only spiritual battle, but you have to fight the geographical demons when you go to Cambodia. So if word of the Lord is like the sword, how sharp is your sword, right? And you have a little dagger, or you really have a soldier sword, to fight the devil.
Amen.
So in your daily, walk with me, your daily schedule, average day, how much time do you give yourself in terms of minutes or hours do you read Bible?
I would give myself, usually I try to do morning time and then evening time.
Okay.
So morning time, I try to devote an hour to worship and reading,
Okay.
at least. Sometimes I don't make that. Sometimes I just wake up and run.
Okay.
But in the nighttime, I try to do the same.
Okay.
At least an hour or two in worship.
Yeah. But what's your system of reading Bible? What's your system?
I usually try to, in the morning times, I always go to Ephesians.
Okay.
I read Ephesians chapter 1, 2, 3. That's my morning. Usually Ephesians 1, 2, 3. I try to throw in another chapter.
Okay.
Maybe Romans 8.
Mm-hmm.
To ground myself in that.
Okay.
I found a lot of my more like nighttime is when I usually go to different places. Like I try to stay in the book of John or one of the Gospels, and then something in the Old Testament.
Okay.
Just wherever the Lord leads at the time as well too. So morning time is just like I try to ground myself in the truths in Ephesians, and then nighttime is where I'll go deeper with other chapters.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So I say Bible writing right now is maybe like I try to get in at least an hour a day. Sometimes more, sometimes less. But it's also worship is very important for me. I try to do at least an hour of worship a day.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're definitely doing enough, and that's good. But my challenge for you is make sure that you're covering all the books of the Bible, right? So at least once a year, go through the Old and New Testament once a year, which means that you'll be reading about 3 chapters a day. 3 chapters a day only requires 15 minutes, right? So this has been my system for 42 years. So I've been reading Bible this way for 42 years. I did more intense reading. I at one point I was going through Bible 10 times a year.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. So what I do is, if you see my Bible, is marked in 4 different locations. First, I start reading from Genesis. So now I have a little tag that keeps me in Genesis. I'm going through from Genesis. I start reading. Now I am at Leviticus chapter 23. So in the morning, I try to read as much as Old Testament as possible until, I'm okay, that was enough. So sometimes 3, sometimes 4 chapters. And then I try to read 1, 2 or 3 book of Psalm, because like you said, praise is important. So I go to Psalm and just kind of worship the Lord through Psalm. So I 2, 3 chapters of Psalm. And then for many, many years, and I really challenge you to do this for young people especially, go through Proverbs. Proverbs is 31 chapters. So today I read Proverbs chapter 8 because today is 8th. So tomorrow I'm going to read Proverbs 9. Okay.
Yeah.
And then try to write out of that chapter, how is God grabbing you? Because it's crazy how I've been doing for 34 years. Still God speaks to me through different verse. And actually write a note. Actually said, December 8th, 2021, this is, and then and I do both Korean, so I have Korean and English Bible handy. Sometimes I start with Korean, sometimes I start with English, whatever. And then the fourth section is my Gospel of John. So I've been teaching daily gospel out of Gospel of John, which is fantastic. I read, and I want to make sure that that daily dosage of Bible's in. So I actually indicate. Now this may sound legalistic, but it's not, because it's a matter of practicality. I write. I have a little box next to my calendar on each date. Have I done enough Bible? So I would actually color it red. Oh, I'll show you. So each day, like December, you see right next to the date, there's a red block, and it's all blocked off. And for last 12 months, every single block has been blocked off. So let's say that I was traveling, I was busy, and then what I do is the next day I make it up. Okay. And then that one, I color it green. So I'll know that, these are made up days. But actually, none of these dates are ever been made up. So I was up to par with my daily reading. Now, I did that. And for actually the time that I was doing 10, when I was doing 10 Bible 10 times a year, I didn't bother because I was doing way more reading, per day. So I did not have to mark myself. But now I'm more focused on teaching, writing. And so I want to make sure that I have enough Bible in daily. And the moment you stop doing that, when enemy attacks, you don't have ammunition. Your sword is not sharp enough. You're not in the word enough. And so I'm so glad that you are already engaged in the reading, meditating of the Bible. That's good. So reading is critical. Second thing, you should not stop at reading when it comes to Bible. You need to study, right? And you need to start systematically study and start journaling. Keep a note. This is a note. I don't know if you could see this.
I see.
It's 1987, March. That was 34 years ago. I was 26 years old, and I led a revival meeting for high school department at GMI, Grace Church. So if the kids that I taught at 1987, a senior in high school would have been 18 years old, and he would be 52 now. And GMI EM just asked me to do a revival type of Christmas service on December 19th. So I said, sure. And I'll be preaching out of that note. And so my point is this. It's not enough that you read the Bible. That you need to systematically have a system where you could log in all your study. So for example, right here is my book of Gospel of John. Okay. So if you go to my library in front, these are Old Testament, New Testament, Genesis, and then bottom. Okay. So the book of John, I have my personal written note of 1,200 pages. And I've been keeping that since 1982. So, of course, that becomes a book because you took a copious note, you preached out of it. I learned it 82, I learned it 86, I taught it 93, I taught it 2003, and on and on and on. So it's important that your Bible study is accumulative. That you don't just study once and forget about it. You're gonna forget what you learned. For me to retain the knowledge I had at age 26, because I have written on it. And then I have a system. So I keep all my John in one John file, all the New Testament in the New Testament, all the Romans. I have written about 1,000 pages on Romans. I wrote about 1,000 pages in Acts. I wrote about 500 pages in 1st and 2nd Timothy. So every time I preach, and then I always put the verse at the top. For example, every Bible study I've done, I would actually quote it by the text on the top, so that it's always retractable. Because in my library, I have my Bible study note, and it's according to Genesis to Revelation, 66 books. So if I said, someone asked, hey, can you preach out of 1 Corinthians? Oh, yeah. And then I'll take my 1 Corinthians notes. And now I have wealth of 42 years of Bible study notes that I kept. Yeah. And then I could back. And then some of them is so shallow, some of them is so stupid, some of them is, that's what 26-year-old boys should preach on, very self-focused, narcissistic. That's okay. Because I'm 60 now, I could laugh about it, So my point is this. If you are studying the Bible, and as a professional Christian, thank God we're Christian. We only have to be good at one book. You don't need any other. You need all these reference books you need to master too, but one book. But can you really say that, Lord, because I loved you, I became expert at the love letter that you sent me? You could say, you're on about loving God. Well, have you read his love letter? No, I don't care less about his love letter. I just love him. It's like, well, something went wrong, right? In your confession. So how do you do Bible? Do you read it? You're okay. You're reading enough. Do you study enough? What say you about studying and taking notes? What's your system?
I used to take notes. I need to get back into that. I used to have like a journal. Yeah.
Okay.
And it's never really been systematic. Maybe back when I was several years ago.
Yeah.
When I was in prison. Did I ever tell you I spent time in prison? I did 10 years in prison. 11 years.
Yeah.
I used to do that back in those days, but
yeah.
And then recently it's been more just journaling some of the revelations.
Yeah.
But even that I need to pick back up. I haven't been doing that for a while.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what do you consider studying? Like in terms of like you go to like reference books and things like that as well too?
So
is that studying to you?
Yeah. So two points on that. What do you study is important. For a beginner, I recommend you study. You talked about Ephesians, that's great, but you need to anchor. Like a chair needs 4 posts for chair to stand or table to stand. Your foundation needs a 4 posts biblically. Genesis, of course, because it's the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Gospel of John, Romans, and Revelation. Those are the 4 books you need to anchor your faith on, because Genesis talks about how it all began. Revelation is going to talk about how it's going to end. And then the gospel says Jesus is God. And Romans says this is how you need to believe. So 4 books. So actually I wrote commentary on all 4 out of thousands of pages, And so that's a labor of love, and you do that daily. But as long as you could track it, that's why I recommend writing your notes on loose paper and then bind it. Even if you use, I will show you my, do I have, yeah. So when I was in college, 1979 and on, so I would actually have a binder like this as a Bible. And here, Then I'll go through. Now this is my 2 Corinthians, okay, chapter by chapter. Now what I do is, because now I need to make a new, I would actually photocopy it and then I put it in the binder. Okay. So now I am actually reading, because I'm ready to do a teaching on 1 Corinthians. So I'm reading my friend's about 350-page commentary on the 1 Corinthians, and I'm taking notes, and then I'm personalizing it, and then I'm combining what I wrote on 1 Corinthians on 2000. Let me see. This was my note, 2 Corinthians on, what year was it? I should have a date. So everything's by chapter. It's kind of embarrassing, but hey, I was only 18 years old, right? So, but all this, because I believe that God speaks to you when you are 18, for 18-year-olds. So guess what? When they ask me to, hey, can you preach for our high school department? Then I go back to my notes when I was 18. Because that's the level in which that they're going to understand the Bible. Not when I'm PhD, right? So that's so important. So now what you can do is, my point is that 30 years will pass, whether you do this or not. And 30 years later, are you going to have your own resource of stuff? Because you as a professional Christian, as a missionary, man, you better be better than some other Christians, right? I mean, honestly, you better be better than Charlie, man. I mean, he's a businessman. He doesn't even teach Bible professionally, you know. And so I'm so glad that I have something to show for. You know, I got, I don't know, 7,000, 8,000, 10,000 pages on Bible that I start doing for 42 years. So if someone says, why are you a professional Christian? Well, I'm a professional Christian, man. I gave my life to the Bible. I gave my life to the prayer. I gave my life to the things, what God is doing globally, you know. And as much as I read books, Bible, I read books, you know. I used to go 100 books a year, right? So are you reading the Bible? How are you reading it? How are you journaling? That's very, very important, because, you know, initial stage of exciting honeymoon stage of mission, man, you're going to be like open to all kinds of information. And then if you do not keep a journal, then it all become mumbo jumbo and then eventually become dull. So you don't really have a fresh eye. You know, I'm right now writing a memoir on 20 years of my mission work in Cambodia. And now I could go back to all my journals, all my notes. I got literally 1,000 pages of notes on what I've experienced, what I felt, what I learned, revelation from the Lord. Now I could just kind of sort it. And then, well, here it is. You know, 20 years of my mission work in Cambodia. These are the stuff I learned. These are the stuff I should never do. And these are the stuff that I could encourage young people coming to Cambodia not to do and what to do, right? And so journaling is so important. So how do you do your Bible? How do you pray? And how do you journal? I think that's something that you need to kind of process. And next time you meet, the point is this: unless you have a system, you're not going to follow through. Unless you have a practical way to measure it, until it becomes so natural that you do it like brushing your teeth, then you don't have to, you know, I don't journal. I don't put in my calendar how many times I brush my teeth today. You know, I don't do that. Why? I do that naturally. Someday, yeah, I don't have to, maybe, you know, how much Bible I read, but I've been Christian for 42 years. Unless I push myself, unless I encourage myself, unless it is, it's in the paper, then guess what? I start skipping a couple days here, couple days there, you know, because I'm busy. I'm serving the Lord, right? You know, it's like, come on, you know, I just preached 7 messages on Sunday, you know. So Monday morning comes, I could kind of relax, right? No, you shouldn't, right? So, yeah, so it's very important how you do your Bible. How do you systematically record so that you could trace back, so that you could actually confidently teach, you know. Today, I just did my 447 daily gospel. And for me to every morning teach Bible, out of the Bible, 15 minutes a day in Korean and English, people think, a lot of my friends are saying, how do you do that, man? You know, it's like, how do you come up with new stuff? Like, new stuff. I got 10,000 pages I need to teach on. I still got many years to go. And while I'm teaching that, fresh revelation come on top of the stuff that I learned. I'm like, wow, this is good. And you know, some of the 1987 note, I'm just like, I can't believe I was 26 and I was already teaching that at 26. You know, it's kind of mind-boggling, right? It's not to self-promote anything. It's just like, it must be God. Because when I meet 26-year-old pastors these days, I'm like, are you kidding me? It's like, what are they talking about, right? It's like, where's the gospel here? You know?
Yeah.
Where's the gospel? You know, do you know what gospel is? You know? And so, yeah, so I think it's a wonderful tool, right? So, okay, how do you do Bible? Okay, how do you do prayer?
I do a lot of my prayer in worship as well too. They kind of commingle.
Okay.
Definitely need to be more faithful, and especially in intercessory prayer.
Okay.
That's one thing I want to pick up on.
Good. How do you record your prayer?
You know what? I don't.
Oh, so you would never know if God answered your prayer.
Yeah. People keep a record of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I do two things.
Yeah.
You have to start writing a journal. Okay. Journal that is dated. Don't buy a blank sheet and then you date yourself. No. Buy something that actually has a date each day and empty space. Okay. Start doing that from 2022. Buy this before you go to Cambodia. It's like $40, man, $36. Okay. It's a daily reminder, standard Bible diary. And I already bought 2022. Okay.
Awesome.
And I've been doing this for 45 years. You see all my red thing there, it's my diary. Everything on the wall is something that I have written. 62 books published and everything written is there. Okay. So my diary and my schedule book, it works kind of like hand in hand. So what I do is this one stays at home, but this book travels with me. So this morning I woke up and I prayed, and the prayer was prayer number 9,993. All my prayers, intercessory prayers are numbered. For me to write 9,393, I almost 30 years, I've been writing one prayer and numbered it. So if you start from tomorrow, prayer number 1, you'll take your age plus 30 before you could reach this number. Okay. Why is that important? Well, how would you know God answered your prayer or not? Right? So for example, 9,993, it was a prayer for, I'll be preaching for New York, New Vision Church Christmas message on 19th. And I saw some vision and I said, Lord, is this what I preach? And then I'll know if I hit it on the mark or not. 9,996 is a prayer number, whether to start this private group or not. 9,997, I'll be preaching for Catalyst Church in January 2022. I already mapped out. So that's what I'll be interceding. Now, during the day, when I'm traveling, God started giving revelation and I'm starting praying for people. Then I write that in my prayer right here. So then I will have a table of content in the front, the important prayers that Lord has revealed to me. They don't even make it into my prayer numbers, but just it is all written out. So when God start moving, and then you think like, wow, this is great. I must be a great preacher or something. And then you go back to your intercession that you did 3 months ago, 2 months ago, two weeks ago. That's exactly how you prayed. Then you said, wow, it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with God, right? See, Bible, what is Bible? All the Psalms, it was a recording of diary of David the king. King David's rendering of, God, why do you hate me so much? You don't answer my prayer. That he turned into a song. Or he wrote when he was feeling good, Lord is my shepherd, I shall not need. So these are his journal, his poetry, his prayer, his praise that has written down. He did not simply pray and then, I wish I wrote that lyric down. I said something about Lord being good shepherd. I forgot. They will not have Psalm 23rd with us. Okay. So of course, I don't think you and my writing will ever make it into next Bible, but at least I have written, and at least I want my grandchildren to have access. Wow, this is what Grandpa wrote. He was his personal struggle, and this is how he overcame, right? And I think it is so critical that we leave our journal behind, right? And when you write something, then you really become honest with yourself. Honestly, when I go back to my journal, because I wrote it honestly, I'm embarrassed that I struggle with that at that age, and yet that is a good reminder that I've come, I feel like, oh gosh, why am I still like this? And then I realized, well, I came quite far from who I was 20 years ago, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, or wow, 7 years ago, I was more pure. 7 years ago, man, I was all for Jesus, man. This position didn't matter, status didn't matter. Why am I so upset about my friend flying first class? Who cares? When I was 18, I didn't care about anything. I just want to serve the Lord. Now, why is it matter that my good friend of mine is flying first class, spending $8,000 per ticket, when I'm in economy, caught up in this, why does that matter? And then when I read my devotion, this is my devotion when I was 18. Sometimes I read and I cry because I was so pure, man. It was about Jesus, that's all I wanted, and then how come I got so corrupted? Status matter, and number of congregation matter, and how come these guys that I ran with now has a couple thousand member church, and they don't even, I email them, they don't even respond. It's like I became over. They don't even bother. It's like, these guys that used to meet, and I recently wrote to them several times, they don't even bother responding, personal email, like, oh shit, man, I feel really shitty about it. And then I go back and I said, wow, my love for Jesus was so pure. That didn't matter, you know what I mean? So
I do, yeah.
So that is critical. If you don't upkeep your personal journey as a journal, then pretty soon, I've been in Cambodia 20 years. Wow. It's 2020, you're going to be going there 2022, 2042, 20 years later. If someone asks, Joseph, how can I become an effective missionary into Cambodia? Man, imagine having 20 years of wealth, of resource, your personal walk with the Lord in Bible study, your prayer, your intercession, numbered prayer, and stuff that you learn. You'll be ready to publish a book, So that's important, right? So how do you do Bible? How do you do your prayer? How do you keep your journal? Critical. So keep that going, come up with, so next time we meet, I'm going to ask you. So this time you haven't, so I'm going to ask you, did you buy the Bible diary? So start doing that, practice that. And then from 2022, keep a diary. So, you know, I actually, with my diary writing, I try to be creative. So I put pictures and I make it colorful. And, you know, every time that, you know, so I try to, how can I be creative with my diary? So I entertain myself every morning, have a good time. And when God starts speaking to me, I write it down. Yeah, so any question on that?
No, that's good. Thank you.
That's good. Okay, then I'm gonna touch up on your question. So next time we meet, I'm gonna ask you, how do you do your Bible? How do you do your prayer? How do you do journal? And then I'm not gonna ask you how much, you know, you've done enough. You're doing well. You're doing good. But I just want you to put yourself into some kind of system where it will be retractable. It will be that you'll be accountable. You know. That you don't skip a few days and forget about it, right? For the time being, let's try that. So we could actually, next time we meet, we could even open up our journal and see how you did. You know, and I've been so bad with my exercise. Actually, I even force myself to exercise. So next to Bible, I got 2 more squares. That's actually 30 minutes slot of exercising. For some guy like you, you want to do it, so you just do it naturally. For me, it's like a chore. It's like pulling teeth. Exercising for me is like pulling teeth. I just want to stay home and read books and Bible all day long, and so I have to like push myself to exercise. So your first question: importance of having home church support. Okay. So my question to you: what is home church to you?
Home church is, it's a great question. Home church is, and I'm thinking in context of like having a home church in the States, where I come from. It's a church that I'm spiritually responsible to.
Okay.
And I consider as it's like a family,
Okay.
ascending church, I guess they would call it in missions terms.
Sponsors.
Kind of like Antioch to Paul.
Yeah. Sending church. Yeah. That's right. So like Paul and Barnabas, Antioch church will be definitely their sending church. Right? And that's important because when I'm in Cambodia, I have a church that I attend regularly.
Right.
That's my home church.
Okay.
And that's the church that I give tithing to. But not the whole tithe, because if I start tithing, American tithing to my home church, then they will become immediately dependent on me. So there's a wisdom, right? Yeah. You need wisdom. But based on that church's need and the role you play, that's the amount that I give to that church as my home church in Cambodia, that I will not imbalance their financial structure of the church, and at the same time do enough so that they know that I am their spiritual leader. And as an elder of the church, I'm not the pastor. I don't try to play the role of a pastor, try the role of an elder or apostle, so that I've been mentoring the pastor types, three, 4 pastor types in 3, 4 churches, meet with them, buy them lunch, have meeting like this. They ask questions and I, share and difficulties and preparing sermons and, preparing how do you deal with difficult people in church, and how do I plan for the future? How do you prepare a message, sir? And so I do that mentoring, but that's my home church. But boom, I take a flight and come to LA, then I have my another home church here. But I don't, of all these years of mission work, I don't have a sending church. Can you believe that? And I literally ask hundreds of churches to be a sending church for me. And I personally wrote letter to senior pastor. Good friends for 25 years. I said, hey man, can you become my sending church for me? Answer is no. Why do you think that? So I said to the Lord, it's not fair.
Interesting.
I thought I was being faithful, and I did 2,000 revival meetings at 64 countries. And I don't have a sending church. Why? Because God does not want me to settle at one church. I think that's the conclusion. I still don't know why, but that my kind of a intermediary solution or answer to that is maybe God doesn't want me. But I do have like 5 local immigrant church, support like $100 here, $150 here, 200 here, that kind of church. But that's not sending church, because at least sending church, the today's currency should support anywhere from 2,000 to 3,000 a month in order to be. So I think God's saying, no, I still want you to beg. Don't depend on one church. I still want you to beg for Jesus. I'm a beggar for the Lord, so I've been begging for the last 20 years for other people and for my life. And so I'm okay with that. It was very difficult for me to understand, because I'm a businessman. I could just do business and make living. And Lord says no. I said, why, Lord? I could just I could just do business on the side. Lord said no. Beg. So I said, okay, that's okay. So yeah, but why is home church or sending church important? Because they are going to keep your name in their bulletin. Yeah, make sure that if the church that Steve Kahn is running right now, well, I don't know the name of the church. Is it Jesus Community or something?
All Nations Jesus Church.
Yeah, All Nation Jesus Church, whatever, whatever the name, I don't care. The bulletin should have your name as a missionary of their church. The church member should every week at least read your name once and pray for you. Make sure that church regularly has a prayer, so that your prayer request has some final location. That now I have built intercessors. I have about 600 intercessors now. So I've been very faithfully writing a monthly prayer letter, both in Korean and English, and about 600 people receive. Okay. Now that's another thing. That's the next thing that maybe time ran out for today. So we're talking about church, but I'm going to teach you how to build the intercessors. That is probably the most critical, more critical than having a home church, right? But anyway, since your question was about home church, so next question will be, how do I build my intercessory team? So that will be next. But anyways, right now, home church, make sure that you have enough churches. So like, for example, I have church that supports me $500 a month, which is great. And they've been praying for me regularly. Matter of fact, tomorrow morning, they said, they just wrote to me, Pastoral, Thursday early morning prayer is designated for Cambodia. I said, that's fantastic. I'll join you. So I'm going to join in their Zoom, live, YouTube live. I'll be joining the live streaming at 6 a.m., participate their worship. They're going to pray for Cambodia. And they're going to pray out of my prayer list that I gave. Fantastic. And Friday evening meeting, they're going to pray for all the missionaries they sent, including me. They got about 25 people. That's okay. So make sure that your name and your prayer request is somewhere in church bulletin, right? Very important. Why? Because you need that covering. Okay. Prayer covering, and also financial covering. You want to build your finance so you don't really have to worry about working, so that you could just fully engage in serving the Lord. And thirdly, there are some legal issues, right? So there could be a case where they, in Cambodia, said, who's your sponsor? Why are you here, right? Do you have a legal letter that they could write to you? So you want to make sure that your church is legit. It's not just your uncle and your mom calling themselves church. No, there's got to be an American 501c3 as a church registered, so they could legal boundaries, right? And also, it is just emotional, just like that, just like what you said. If you come back to America, do you have a gathering of friends or church that you could go to? So I just preached at this church last week. That's the church that they don't support me financially, zero, but they've been writing my name on their bulletin for many, many years. And I welcome that. I told the pastor, you don't have to support me, financially. Can you at least write my name and pray and consider me your missionary? It's church of like 15 people,
Yeah.
So, but man, when I walked there last week and got the bulletin, I am part of their mission, and they've been praying for me, and it's like, yes. So that is your emotional home, church, right? So that's good. It doesn't always have to be financial, emotional. So I got about 3-4 churches like that, which is fantastic, right? And then that's the church you could go back to, make mission report, so that you'll be accountable, right? So yeah, home church, having home church, very critical. I don't want this session to be more than an hour, so we're in about 45 minutes. So the next one, any question on that? Any thought on that?
No, that was really good. That was really good. You articulated that really well.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So when you talk about home church, there are two people you have to be very, very intentionally close to: senior pastor and mission head. So if you're writing an email, your prayer request, make sure 2 people always get your email. Senior pastor of the church, in your case, will be, I think, Peter and Steve Kang. And also who is in charge of the mission department. I don't know if it's James Ha, or whoever, Abraham, right? Was Barnabas. Yeah, he's a mission pastor probably, because he's a missionary to Mexico. Yep. So Barnabas is someone that you need to get close to, and so intentionally write to them, report to them. And having the home church is one thing, but you need to build another system in your life to report to them monthly, minimum monthly. I know people complain. I met a lot of missionaries complain about writing a monthly report. I'm like, man, that's the minimum you need to do.
No, that's the basics.
Yeah, I mean, it's basics, man. And I say, I'm so busy. Why are you so busy? You cannot even make a monthly report, and then I show them my monthly report. They just flipped. They said, oh my God, you preached 78 times and you published a book and you lectured 20 times and you did other revival. I was like, and then you still have time to write about it? I said, yeah, so if you don't write, then you're going to forget anyways. And so that's why every mission, so get in habit of writing a mission report thoroughly, so that end of the year, you could actually publish as a book, or at least as a report, right? I gave you one of my book, right? 2020 Pillar of Fire and Pillar of Cloud. Did you receive that book?
No, I don't think I did.
Oh man, that's messed up. Next time I see you, I'll give it to you.
Okay, awesome.
So every year, I don't know where it is right now. Oh, okay. Oh, well, it's in my bouquet somewhere. But I write a mission report monthly, and I collect it, and testimonies, and then I publish about 250-page book, Pillar of Fire and Pillar of Cloud, and I've been doing that annually. Very critical. Now imagine this: a church that sends you, and then let's say the future sponsors, Joseph Hua, I would like to support him, $50 a month, $100,000 a month, $20 a month, whatever. And then annually, you're sending them a book of what you've done in Cambodia. Then they'll think twice about, do I continue supporting this guy next year or not? Right? Because they're supporting, Compassion Kid, $38 a month, or some other pastor, $50, some other missionary, $50 a month. But they even have hard time writing a monthly report to you. But here is this guy, emails me monthly report every month, faithfully for last 20 years. And every year I receive a 250-page book from him, right? Send it to me, to my address. Do you think they will continue to support you or not? Okay. More than money, it's not more than, it's integrity issue. No, really, are you doing enough for the Lord? Because nobody wants to support a lazy bum. Right?
Yeah.
The most complaint that I heard from my support is, Bob, slow down. Slow down. It's like, how do you do all this stuff? Think about your family. Spend some time with your wife. That's the most complaint, because they read my mission reports or monthly report and said, they shake their head. They said, how do you do all this stuff? Why do you do all this stuff? Right? So I say, well, because I got all this time, man. I love what I'm doing. I really enjoy what I do. I woke up 4:30 this morning. I was so happy. I was giggling. I came up, start making my coffee. This is my 4th cup of coffee, and I'm happy, fully caffeinated, full of Jesus, and do what I do, right? So I could produce, right? Being fruitful. Yeah. So make sure that you have home church monthly report that hopefully so it's all about being accumulative. Joseph, 1st year in Cambodia, Joseph, 2nd year in Cambodia, 3rd year, 4th year, 7th year, 7th year, wow, you got all this stuff that you produce that you could go back to. Think about that. So it bleeds into the next question. Importance of taking time to learn culture before jumping into ministry. Oh my Lord, yeah, you need to, and especially because will you be married to a Khmer lady? Make sure your Khmer is good enough to be my translator someday. Because I gave up. 20 years ago, I said, Lord, I actually took.
Okay.
I took 8 languages.
Yeah.
I study 8 languages. German, Spanish, Greek, Hebrew. And then out of 8 languages I learned, I only speak 2, Korean and English. So I gave up on Khmer. 20 years ago, I gave up on Khmer. I don't even want to study. But you're young, and you'll be married to a Khmer lady, and you have to relate to Khmer mother-in-law, Khmer in-laws, and you are committing to Khmer missionary. I would say, don't do anything. Just learn Khmer, learn culture, saturate yourself, immerse yourself into Khmer culture, right? And write notes, your personal note. You could learn so much now in internet. You should actually write a Khmer history the way Joseph Hua saw it. And they'll be fantastic because you have a Chinese twist, American twist, Khmer wife's twist, and you're gonna see culture differently, right? And always be a learner. Don't ever try to teach anything to anybody, right? If someone says to you, oh, teacher Joseph, can you teach me English? You tell them, I'll teach you English, you teach me Khmer. Don't ever have attitude like, I'm better than you, I have something to teach you. You have nothing to teach them other than English.
Amen.
Because they're smarter about their culture, smarter about their language, smarter about their, even some of them really, they are more faithful Christian than I could possibly imagine. I cannot believe that, the guy that I give $250 salary to, I taught them the principle of tithing and he gives $25 tithing. I'm thinking, I taught him, but my God, would I have given God $25 out of $250? What do I live on, right? So he had to actually live at Methodist Church, free lodging, being the dorm director and all that. But Lord blessed him. Now he's going to buy a house, $25,000 house. Amazing stories, And so, honestly, I don't think I was better Christian than when I was 28, So I never. So this is, if anything, this session, this first hour session or second session with you, if you're going to have attitude of superiority complex, don't go. Stay home. Don't become this typical missionary that I met who really feel they're superior than Cambodians. And I met so many racists
Hmm.
in Cambodia, missionaries.
Hmm.
The racist missionary in Cambodia that I said, it's better that you should not have come. You should just stay home and become a redneck or racist somewhere, I'm not just talking about Americans. I'm talking about Koreans. I'm talking about Chinese. I'm talking about who really think, I met some Chinese think that China is in the center of the universe and we're going to not Christianize, we're going to Chinese-ize. I'm like, Chinese way is not biblical way. Korean way is not biblical way. Biblical way is biblical way, right?
Yeah.
And I find more biblical way in Khmer than any culture so don't try to culturalize, don't try to, and so the first thing, and I think we as a minority in America have such advantage. I've been victim of racism for 48 years of my life in America. I thank God for that, because then I could go to any country in the world and I could smell, feel, sense racism.
Yeah.
And could say that, hey, shut up, man. If you're going to have that attitude, don't come. You're not better than any Khmer you meet. Even the beggars in Khmer, in Cambodia, is better than you. Unless you have attitude to learn from a beggars on the street people from Cambodia, don't come. Very important. I was just reading a book. I'm reading several books this week. One I just finished. I'm finishing this book by missionary to Kenya, and this missionary was accused of prostituting poverty by taking a lot of photos of poor people in Kenya and sending it to Korea. And that's exactly how the recipient country will feel. When we act like, oh, we're so rich and take iPhone shot of these poor kids on the street. I'm like, why are you doing this? I remember first, this American missionary came to Cambodia. You know what? First thing, next day, his Facebook cover changed to the poor kid in Phnom Penh street. I had to call him personally. I said, can you put that stupid photo down? I said, you are prostituting poverty. Because if the rest of the world, if you come to your Facebook profile of, well, I'm a missionary to Cambodia now, so let me show you the poorest kid in Phnom Penh. You know how many Lexus, how many Range Rovers are in Phnom Penh? Why don't you take a picture of that?
Yeah, you told me, yeah.
So can you imagine, I come to America and I go to ghetto, South Central, and the drug addicts, a street people problem, and then say, well, I'm a missionary to America, and they will say, really? Is that how you're going to portray the country that you're going to serve? Right? Yeah. So do you learn the culture? Yeah. That's the key word. Be the learner. Don't become a teacher. Come to Cambodia saying, I have nothing to teach. I have everything to learn. Right? I'm not going to be this American, because by the time you come to Cambodia, everybody say, wow, this well-fit Chinese guy from America, man, I want to befriend him because maybe I could get something from him. Unfortunately, who create the culture? Us.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I think we need to repent. Well, our hour is up. Yeah, I'm gonna just stop recording, but we're gonna talk more. But yeah, let me stop the recording. So we're good?
We're good. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop recording. So maybe next session, we're gonna talk about how do you do Bible, how do you do prayer, how do you do journal, and tell me your system about how you did it, and show me, and then we're gonna cover your other questions about how role of missionary and how the best money is used. And I could probably talk about next week or next session. Let's talk about building how you build a intercessory team. Very, very good. And I want you to do that before you leave. So maybe, next week or, sometime January, we'll do another session. but we'll do that.